Let me ask you something. Have you ever stood in the middle of your storm? Wind howling, doors slamming shut, people walking away, and still whispered to yourself, I'm not done yet. Because that right there is where unshakable faith begins. Not when it's easy. Not when the sun is out and the money's good and your name is in lights. Faith begins in the dark when all you've got is a flicker and you refuse to let it die. Now listen closely. I'm about to share 5 secrets that don't come from textbooks. They come from fire, from failure, from getting back up when you don't even know why you still believe. Let's get into it. You don't build faith by sitting still. You don't develop resilience in a vacuum. Both are muscles. And like any muscle in your body, they only grow through pressure, resistance, and consistent use. Faith isn't a feeling, it's a decision, a discipline, a daily grind. It's not about how high you jump when you're excited. It's about how steady you walk when the road is cracked and uneven. People think faith is something you either have or you don't. But that's a lie. Faith is built moment by moment, decision by decision. Every time you choose to keep going, when your mind is screaming to give up, you're building faith. Every time you show up to the job you hate, because your kids need food, that's faith in action. Every time you step forward when you can't see the whole path, but you trust that the next step will appear, that's how faith becomes real. It's easy to believe when things are good, when the bank account is full, when your health is strong, when the doors are opening. But that's not when faith is built. Faith is built in the not yet, in the space between the promise and the payoff, in the middle of the desert where there's no water in sight and you're still digging wells. That's where the real work begins. And it's not glamorous. No applause, no spotlight. Just you, God, and the question, do I believe enough to keep going? If you want faith, that's unshakable. You have to put it under pressure. Just like a muscle, it needs tension to grow. A bodybuilder doesn't get strong by lifting feathers. They lift heavy. They push through pain. They feel the burn and keep going. Because they know the growth lives in the discomfort. The same goes for faith. You have to press through doubt, through fear, through the silence when you pray and hear nothing back. That silence doesn't mean absence. It means training. It means your faith is being refined, purified, stretched beyond its limits so it can come back stronger. There will be days you wake up and don't feel inspired. You won't feel spiritual. You won't feel hopeful. And those are the most important days of all. Because that's when faith has to step in and carry what feelings can't. You've got to move, even if your steps are small. You've got to believe, even if your voice shakes when you speak. That's what it means to have working faith. Faith that doesn't depend on emotion, but on conviction, on vision, on the inner knowing that what you're walking toward is bigger than what you're walking through. Most people wait to feel strong before they move. But the truth is, strength shows up when you move. You don't wait for courage. You activate it. You don't wait to believe. You build belief like a bricklayer builds a wall. One stone at a time. With repetition. With sweat. With patience. Nobody sees the foundation, but it's the most important part. That daily decision to trust. That silent battle between fear and belief. That choice to say, I will not fold, even if everything in me wants to. And don't get it twisted. Faith isn't about being fearless. It's about being faithful despite fear. It's about saying, I feel the fear, but I'm showing up anyway. I feel the doubt, but I'm speaking life anyway. I feel weak, but I'm walking strong because my foundation is solid. That's what separates those who rise from those who break. Not a lack of fear, but an unwillingness to bow to it. Some people think faith is passive, that it's just about praying and waiting. But real faith is active. It moves. It works while it waits. It doesn't sit around hoping things change. It puts in the work like the change is already here. Faith says, I may not see the fruit yet, but I'm planting seeds anyway. I may not hear the answer yet, but I'm still showing up to the altar. Faith prepares the table before the meal is served. It acts like the door is open even when it's still shut. It shows up early. It gets dressed. It does the work. Every little act of discipline is a strike against doubt. Every time you choose consistency over comfort, you're building. Every prayer you whisper in the dark, every journal entry soaked in frustration, every workout, every phone call, every time you keep your word when it would be easier not to. Those are bricks. They don't feel like much in the moment, but they stack. They build something solid. And one day, when the storm comes, and it will, you'll find yourself standing in the middle of it all. Not because the storm didn't hit you, but because your foundation didn't move. Faith is not what you say when the sun is out. It's what you hold on to when everything goes dark. You ever try to walk in a blackout with no flashlight? You move slow. You stretch your hands out. You bump into things. But if you trust the process, you find your way. And after a while, your senses adjust. Your awareness sharpens. You start to notice details you missed in the light. That's what trials do for your faith. They sharpen your spirit. They tune your ears to the whispers of God. They make you more focused, more intentional, more grounded. You stop chasing hype and start chasing truth. And when you build that kind of faith, the kind that doesn't shake when the wind blows, you become dangerous. You become the type of person who doesn't flinch when plans fall apart. The type who walks through loss with grace. Who steps into uncertainty with eyes wide open and heart fully anchored. Because you know who you are. And more importantly, you know whose you are. That's the kind of faith the world can't take from you. It's not rented. It's owned. And it's earned in the trenches. The truth is, everybody wants faith like a warrior, but nobody wants the wounds that make it real. Nobody wants the scars, the late nights, the lonely battles. But those are the moments that build the kind of faith that lasts. You don't build it in comfort. You build it in fire. And once you've been through the fire and survived, your faith becomes unshakable. Because you've seen what you can walk through. You've seen what didn't break you. You felt the presence of God in your lowest place. And once you've had that, there's no turning back. Everybody wants to avoid pain. Everybody wants the shortcut. We're wired to run from discomfort, to escape anything that feels like struggle. But the truth is, pain is one of the greatest teachers you'll ever have. Not because it feels good, because it doesn't. Not because it's easy, because it isn't. But because pain reveals what comfort hides. When everything is smooth, when there are no obstacles, it's easy to pretend. Easy to wear a mask. Easy to skate through life without ever confronting who you really are. But pain strips that away. Pain pulls you into the mirror and forces you to look. There's a lesson in every heartbreak, every closed door, every sleepless night. There's something pain is trying to show you that pleasure can't. Pain speaks a language of growth, of maturity, of clarity. It says, you're not done yet. It says, there's more inside you than you're using. See, comfort will keep you complacent. Pain wakes you up. Pain will pull the potential out of you, whether you're ready or not. You learn what you really believe when things fall apart. You learn who your real friends are, who your real supporters are. You learn if your faith is real or just something you say when life is good. Pain cuts through the fluff. It silences the noise. It gets right to the core of what matters. And if you're paying attention, it will shape you into someone stronger than you've ever been. Because when you go through enough, you stop playing around with your time. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. Pain refines your priorities. It burns away the nonsense. You don't have to like it to learn from it. You don't have to enjoy it for it to shape you. Some of the best growth you'll ever experience will come in seasons that felt like breaking. But you weren't breaking. You were transforming. You were shedding the version of yourself that couldn't carry the next level, that couldn't bear the weight of the blessing ahead. And transformation hurts. It stretches, it presses, but it also prepares. Pain is not a punishment. It's preparation. Most people try to numb pain. They drown it out with distraction. Food, alcohol, scrolling noise. Anything to avoid sitting in the stillness of it. But the pain doesn't go away. It waits. And if you ignore it long enough, it comes back stronger. See, pain that's unprocessed becomes pain that controls you. But when you face it, when you look it in the eye and ask, what are you here to teach me? That's when everything changes. That's when pain becomes power. Ask anyone who's built something meaningful. Success didn't show up wrapped in comfort. It came through pressure, through rejection, through falling flat on their face and getting up again. Pain will humble you, but it will also deepen you. It'll force you to rely on strength you didn't even know you had. It'll show you that you're not as fragile as you once believed. And once you've walked through real pain, you move differently. You speak with more authority. You lead with more compassion. You live with more purpose. It's easy to preach resilience when life is going your way. But what happens when it isn't? What happens when the plan doesn't work? When the relationship ends? When the opportunity you were banking on disappears? That's when the teacher shows up. That's when the real class begins. Pain doesn't ask for your permission. It doesn't schedule an appointment. It just arrives. But you get to decide how you respond. You can either let it break you, or you can let it build you. Pain will make you question everything. Your worth, your path, your strength. But those questions are necessary, because through them, you find answers you couldn't reach any other way. You discover that your worth isn't tied to what left, that your path is still valid, even if it looks different now, that your strength is deeper than your circumstances. Pain strips you of the illusion that control equals peace. It teaches you to be okay without guarantees, to be grounded without needing everything to make sense. When you've been through enough pain, you develop eyes that see differently. You stop judging people on the surface because you understand that everyone is carrying something. That kindness matters. That empathy matters. Pain makes you more human. It takes away the ego and replaces it with grace. It teaches you to be patient with others and with yourself, to give space for healing, to give room for growth. And here's the thing. Pain will revisit you. It's not a one-time lesson. Life has a way of bringing it back around, sometimes in new forms, to see if you're really listening. Each time, it peels another layer. Each time, it invites you to go deeper, to become more honest, more grounded, more whole. Pain forces you to evolve. It pulls you out of the shell of who you were and pushes you toward who you were meant to become. There's something sacred about suffering when you let it shape you. When you stop fighting it and start learning from it. There's a kind of wisdom that only comes from walking through darkness and still choosing to believe in the light. That kind of wisdom can't be faked. It can't be taught in a classroom. It has to be lived. It has to be earned. And once you have it, no one can take it from you. Pain will teach you to slow down, to breathe, to be present. It'll make you appreciate the small victories, the quiet moments, the tiny steps forward. It'll teach you that survival itself is a kind of triumph. That making it through the day is sometimes the win. Pain adjusts your perspective. It shifts your focus from what you lost to what you still have. It reminds you that you're alive, that you're still in the game. And when you start to see pain as a teacher, you stop resenting it. You stop wishing it away. You start using it. You start mining it for wisdom, for strength, for purpose, because nothing is wasted. Not the tears, not the nights you couldn't sleep, not the moments you thought it was over. All of it can be redeemed. All of it can be used. If you're willing to sit with it, to learn from it, to rise through it, that's when the shift happens. When the pain no longer controls you but fuels you. When you realize that what tried to break you actually built you. That what came to destroy your peace ended up sharpening your vision. That every wound has the potential to become wisdom if you're brave enough to go through the healing process. Pain will push you into purpose, but only if you let it. Resilience isn't something you buy. It's not something you post about for likes or wear like a badge when things are going your way. Real resilience is built in silence, in solitude, in the moments no one ever sees. It's built when the camera's off, when the audience is gone, and all that's left is you and your decision to keep showing up. Resilience is not flashy. It's not loud. It's consistent. It's patient. It's forged in those early mornings when your body aches, but you get up anyway. In those late nights when your mind is racing, but you keep your discipline. In those between hours where no one's cheering for you, but you keep pushing forward because something inside you refuses to quit. Most people don't understand that greatness is quiet. It's built in the background. Everyone sees the success, but they don't see the sacrifice. They don't see the countless times you kept your mouth shut and chose peace over proving your point. They don't see the days you wanted to scream from the pressure, but instead sat with it and learned how to breathe through the weight. Resilience is built When you choose responsibility over excuses. When you stop blaming the world for your pain and start owning your response to it. When you realize that you don't have control over what happens to you, but you do have control over what you do with it. The hardest part about resilience is that it demands repetition, not inspiration, not motivation. Repetition. It's not about feeling strong. It's about acting strong. Especially when you don't feel like it. Because feelings come and go, but character stays. Every time you show up without applause, without recognition, you're stacking layers of strength, of endurance, of grit. And those layers will carry you when life tries to knock you down. The problem is most people quit before those layers get thick. They want results before resilience. They want to shine before they're shaped. But shaping takes time. It takes silence. It takes the kind of work that no one congratulates you for. Think about an athlete. What the world sees is the highlight reel. The game, winning shot, the victory dance, the gold medal. But what they don't see is the grind, the 5 a.m. training sessions, the workouts when their body is sore, the meals they skip, the parties they miss. They don't see the lonely hours in the gym, repeating the same drills over and over until they're second nature. That's resilience. And it's no different in life. If you want to be mentally, emotionally, and spiritually strong, you've got to put in that same kind of quiet, disciplined work. Resilience is also built in how you speak to yourself when things fall apart. When the job lets you go. When the relationship ends. When the plan fails. When the people you counted on disappear. In those moments, what you say to yourself determines everything. If you say, "This always happens to me," or "I'll never make it," you're digging a hole. But if you say, "This hurts, but it's not the end," or "I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm still in this fight," you're building something. You're not denying the pain. You're deciding not to drown in it. That inner dialogue, those private words of affirmation, those choices of perspective, that's where resilience is built. And don't get it twisted. Resilience doesn't mean pretending to be okay. It doesn't mean faking strength or hiding your tears. It means allowing yourself to feel the weight, but refusing to be crushed by it. It means being honest about your pain while still choosing to rise. It means falling and falling and falling and still getting up one more time than you fall. It means learning to carry the load without letting it define you. Because life will keep coming. Storms don't ask if you're ready. They just show up. But if you've done the work in private, if you've trained your spirit in the dark, you'll be able to stand in the middle of chaos and keep your head up. Some of the most resilient people in the world aren't loud. They're not flashy. They don't brag. They move with quiet power. You can see it in their eyes. You can hear it in their voice. They've been through hell and kept walking. They've been betrayed and kept loving. They've been exhausted and kept building. They don't need validation. They've already proven something to themselves. And that's the secret. Resilience is internal. It doesn't depend on the crowd. It's not tied to success or failure. It's who you are when nothing is going right, and you still choose to keep going. One of the most underrated parts of resilience is routine. People think resilience is about big dramatic moments, but it's really about the small daily choices. Getting out of bed when you're tired. Eating right when it would be easier to grab fast food. Saying no to things that drain you. Choosing focus when distraction is easier. That's the hard stuff. That's the boring stuff. But that's where the power is. Anyone can be strong for a moment, but to be strong consistently, that's where greatness lies. The truth is, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And resilience is a system. It's a mindset you train, a rhythm you establish, a foundation you build so that when life hits, you don't crumble. You adjust. You bend, but you don't break. You feel the wind, but you stay grounded because you've done the work. You've practiced standing strong in private. So when the storm comes, you're not guessing. You're ready. And sometimes, resilience is just about holding on, not thriving. Just not letting go. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stay in the fight when everything tells you to quit. Sometimes it's choosing not to send that text, not to burn that bridge, not to give in to bitterness. Sometimes resilience looks like rest, not hustle, like silence, not noise, like walking away from what no longer serves your peace. It's not about proving anything to anyone else. It's about proving to yourself that you're not going to let the world harden you, distract you, or defeat you. Resilience is also contagious. When people see you get back up, it reminds them they can too. When they see you press forward, even with wounds, even with setbacks, they find the strength to take one more step. That's why your resilience matters. It's not just for you. It's for every person who's watching you quietly, wondering if their own pain has a purpose. When you keep going, you light a path for someone else. You show them what's possible. You give them hope. The path to resilience is not glamorous. It's not a straight line. It's filled with stumbles and relapses and tough lessons. But every scar has value. Every bruise carries a lesson. Every quiet moment of persistence becomes part of your foundation. You may not see the growth while you're in it, but one day you'll look back and realize you've become unshakable. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Faith isn't just a feeling. It's a decision, a muscle, a commitment to believe when everything around you gives you every reason not to. Faith doesn't grow in the sunshine. It grows in the shadows. In the moments when the answers don't come. When the doors don't open. When the prayers seem to echo into silence. That's where real faith is born. Not when you get what you want, but when you don't, and you choose to believe anyway. Faith is forged in the fire, in the waiting room of life, in the valley, not the mountaintop. It's when logic runs out and you're left with nothing but trust, nothing but hope, but that quiet inner voice that says, keep going. Everybody wants to believe when life is going well, when the bills are paid, when the body is healthy, when the plan is unfolding on schedule. But what about when the job falls through? What about when the diagnosis hits? What about when you're trying everything you know how to do and nothing seems to be changing? That's where faith is tested. That's where you learn whether your belief is conditional or unshakable. Whether your trust is built on circumstance or character. Faith says, even if I don't see it, I still believe. Even if I don't feel it, I still trust. Even if it doesn't happen on my timeline, I know there's a greater plan. Faith requires surrender. And surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means letting go of control. It means accepting that you can't micromanage your destiny, that some things are out of your hands, and the only way forward is to trust the process, to trust the timing, to trust that the delay is not a denial, that what feels like rejection is really redirection. That what you thought was a setback might be a setup. And that kind of faith, that steady, unshaken, calm in the chaos kind of faith, doesn't just appear overnight. It's built through experience, through scars, through seasons where all you had was the belief that somehow, some way, it would all make sense on the other side. We live in a world that demands proof. Evidence guarantees. But faith walks blind. Faith says, I don't have to see the whole picture to take the next step. It says, I might be walking through darkness, but I'm walking. And there's power in that walk. Power in choosing to get up, to move, to believe again when doubt is screaming in your ear, when fear is trying to paralyze you, when the past is trying to convince you that the future won't be any different. Faith breaks those chains. Faith looks fear in the face and says, not today. Faith reaches past what the eyes can see and clings to a deeper truth. There will be times when your faith feels foolish. When the people around you don't understand why. You haven't given up yet. Why you're still holding on. Why you still speak with hope. when everything looks hopeless. That's okay. Faith isn't about consensus. It's not about everybody agreeing with your vision. It's about staying anchored in your spirit when your surroundings look unstable. It's about having the courage to believe in something bigger than your current circumstances. Something bigger than your bank account, bigger than your pain, bigger than your fear. Faith invites you to rise above what is and connect with what could be. You don't need faith for the things that make sense. You need faith for the impossible. For the battles you don't know how to win. For the dreams that feel too big. For the healing you've been waiting for. For the reconciliation that feels out of reach. Faith fills the gap between your reality and your destiny. And the more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. Just like a muscle, it grows through resistance, through pressure, through perseverance. Every time you choose faith over fear, you grow. Every time you choose to trust instead of panic, you mature. Every time you keep believing when others walk away, you evolve. And faith doesn't mean the absence of doubt. It means choosing belief in the presence of it. It means wrestling with questions and still standing. It means admitting your weakness and still moving forward. The most powerful kind of faith isn't the loudest. It's not the most public. It's the quiet kind. The kind that shows up in tears. The kind that whispers, I don't know how, but I believe. The kind that picks up the broken pieces and keeps building. That's the kind of faith that changes lives. That transforms generations. That moves mountains, not because you're strong, but because you chose to believe in something stronger than you. Faith will ask you to take risks, to step out of the boat, to walk on the water, even when the waves are rising. It will ask you to trust when you have no backup plan, no safety net, no second option. It will call you to places that stretch you, test you, and refine you. And in those places, you'll discover parts of yourself you never knew existed. You'll uncover a strength that was hidden under the surface of comfort. You'll find courage you didn't think you had. Because faith doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes you. It transforms how you see, how you think, how you move. The world may call it naive. They may say you're unrealistic, that you're dreaming too big, believing too much, hoping too hard. Let them talk. Let them doubt. You're not building your life on their opinion. You're building it on conviction. On that still, small voice that refuses to be silenced. That deep sense in your soul that says, there is more. I was made for more. And I will not give up just because the road is hard. That voice is your compass. That voice is your guide. And when you follow it, even when it doesn't make sense, you begin to step into a life that's led by faith not fear. You're going to have moments when you want to quit, when the burden feels too heavy, when the silence feels too long, when the promise feels too far away. But it's in those moments, those quiet, trembling, uncertain moments, that your faith has the greatest opportunity to grow, to deepen, to anchor itself, not in the outcome, but in the character of the one who carries you. Faith says, even if I walk through fire, I will not be burned. Even if I walk through the valley, I am not alone. It's not about being fearless. It's about having something stronger than fear to hold on to. Faith sharpens your vision. It shifts your focus from what's missing to what's possible. It teaches you to see opportunity in obstacles, to see purpose in pain, to see beauty in brokenness. It redefines your understanding of success, not just as what you achieve, but how deeply you trust in the process. It gives you the strength to wait without growing bitter, to sell while you're still in need, to celebrate others while you're still in your own season of struggle. That's the kind of faith that multiplies, that overflows, that turns waiting rooms into training grounds and delays into divine appointments. And every time you choose faith, something shifts. Even if the situation doesn't change immediately, something inside you does. You stand a little taller, breathe a little deeper, speak a little clearer, because faith reminds you of who you are, whose you are, and what you're capable of when you stop relying on what you can see and start leaning on what you believe. It's not always easy. It's not always fast, but it's always worth it, because faith isn't about a perfect path. It's about a persistent one. It's about showing up again and again, even when it's hard, even when you're tired, even when you don't know what's next. But you believe there's a reason to keep walking.